So today we are going to discuss about Unit 5. So as we discussed last class, I think I've given a small introduction about Unit 5. There are two parts in Unit 5. Part 1 is about various microwave parameter measurements. So here in this Unit 5, we are going to measure 5 parameters. The first parameter we are going to measure is frequency. How to measure microwave frequency using microwave setup. Second one is attenuation. Third one is VSWR. Fourth one is there are two methods are there to measure VSWR. Fourth one is power measurements. Fifth one is unknown impedance measurement. So these are the 5 measurements we are going to see here in this unit. And there are specialized microwave diodes are available. What are the specialized microwave diodes are? Special diodes, like already in your EDC course, you learned about what is PN junction diode, what is GNOR diode, uh, different types of diodes like Schottky barrier diode or tunnel diode. All those things you have studied in your course. But in this course, we are going to study about what is gun diode, what is impact diode, what is Trepak diode. So some specialized devices which are used at microwave frequencies we are going to discuss. So we are going to learn about these things in this unit. So one part about the various specialized diodes. Another part we are going to learn about measurements. So those who want to score very good marks, you have to concentrate on both the parts. But minimum you should cover measurements, but because it's very easy measurement parts, because we are going to do these measurements, because a measurement, whatever the parameter you are going to measure, using microwave bend setup only we are going to measure the things. So what is a common microwave bend setup we are going to use? We know that. You are using in your laboratory, the same bench setup we are going to use in your lab also. Whatever the frequency measurement you are doing, you have the experiment is there. Same setup, same procedure, everything is same. Whatever the procedure you are going to use in your laboratory, same procedure you are going to apply here. That's why when you do the lab, same procedure you will apply here, same thing you can write here. So that's why it is very easy. Attenuation measurement, you have one experiment is there. Same thing you are going to do here. I think power measurement you are going to do with power meters. So you might be using some other procedure, but here we are using some other procedure. But unknown impedance measurement is not there, something we are going to do here. But almost all the measurements, whatever we are going to discuss here is, all the measurements are going to do in your lab only. That is the reason you feel that this is easiest one to write and to understand. Okay, so normally in low frequencies, or normally in conventional circuits which are made with resistors, capacitors, inductors, it is easy to measure the voltages, currents, because to measure voltages, currents, we have voltmeters, we have ammeters. Using voltmeter, ammeter, or using multimeters, or we can measure various parameters. But at microwave frequencies, it is more convenient to measure power instead of voltages and currents. Properties of some devices at microwave frequencies are characterized to measure powers, or measure VSWRs, or measure attenuations. So normally at microwave frequency we'll measure powers. That is the reason when you see in unit 2, we have calculated S11, S12, S12, S1, S21, S22 like that. What is S11? What is S11? Anybody remember what is S11? B1 by A1. What is B1? Reflected by incident. What are those things? Powers. So normally at microwave frequencies, we will measure powers rather than voltages and currents. At microwave frequency, it is very convenient to measure the powers. Okay. So what is the general microwave bench setup used? So what is the bench setup used at microwave frequencies? We have a reflex. We have a reflex, klystron, power supply. We have reflex klystron power supply, followed by reflex klystron. Reflex klystron is an oscillator. We know it pretty well. We are already studied in unit 3. Reflex klystron is an oscillator which gives frequency of oscillations. To produce frequency of oscillations, it must be given with what? It has two voltages should be supplied, or else in precisely you have to tell it should be supplied with beam voltage, repeller voltage, RF voltage. And after reflex klystron, we have isolator. What for isolator? We have already studied in unit 2 what is an isolator. It allows the power to flow only in the forward direction. It doesn't allow the power to flow from what? Port 2 to port 1. It allows the power to flow from port 1 to port 2 only. And we have variable attenuator. We are already studied about this one also in unit 2. What is the purpose of variable attenuator? It gives variable amount of attenuation. So what is the variable attenuator? We have studied. Anybody? Rotary vane attenuator we have studied. By varying the vane of that rotary vane, by rotating that vane, we can vary the attenuation. After that, we have what? Frequency meter is there to measure the frequency. We have frequency meter. And we have slotted waveguide. We have slotted waveguide. And to the slotted waveguide only, we are going to connect the measuring. To the slotted waveguide only, we are going to measure the measuring instrument. So finally, to the slotted waveguide, one detector mount is connected. So a detector mount is connected. So I'll once again want to show you what is the picture looks like is attenuation measurement, microwave bench setup. Just I want to show you what is a microwave bench setup, how it looks like. This is the microwave bench setup. Whatever the reflex klystron power supply initially we have named, this is the reflex klystron power supply. This is the reflex klystron power supply. It has beam voltage and it has a repeller voltage. So you might have already observed this reflex klystron power supply. And this is the reflex klystron. This black color one is a reflex klystron. It is a oscillator which gives frequency of oscillation. So a box-like structure you can observe. This is an isolator which allows the power to flow in the forward direction. It has two ports. So it allows the power to flow from port 1 to port 2. Backward radiation is not at all possible. So why after reflux crystron generally an isolator is placed means in order to protect this supply or a reflux crystron from the backward wave, generally at the source, generally an isolator is placed. Normally, a reflux crystron power supply consisting of two voltages. What are the two voltages? We are already studied in the theory of construction of the reflux crystron. It has beam voltage. The cathode, from the cathode, the electron beam has to come with a constant velocity. The high velocity electron beam should come. So we require the beam voltage. In the reflux crystron, whether you remember or not, only single cavity is used in the reflux crystron. The same cavity is used as a buncher cavity and catcher cavity. Normally, the electron beam which is coming from the cathode first enter into the buncher cavity. To the buncher cavity, RF input is applied. In the buncher cavity, velocity due to the RF input, velocity modulation takes place. So there is a repeller at one end. So to the repeller, normally high repeller voltage is applied. The electron beam enter into the repeller space. I just want to show that figure once again. Did you remember that that diagram? What is this reflex crystron diagram? So just go back and I'll show that diagram, because you should not forget this diagram. How many voltages are there or how many voltages are required for the reflux crystron is very, very important. How many voltages are required for the reflux? See, this is the diagram of the reflux crystron. I just want to say. So this is the diagram of the reflux crystron. See, so this is the beam voltage. You are applying the beam voltage, but there is a repeller voltage. In reflux crystron, this repeller voltage is very, very important. This is called beam voltage. A repeller voltage is also applied. So normally this beam voltage is applied between 200 to 400 volts. And the repeller voltage is applied between 21 volts to 210 volts. Generally, this repeller voltage is applied minus 21 volts to minus 210 volts with respect to cathode. Okay, so the structure of this is what? Reflux crystron tube. So the structure of this is consisting of what? It's an electron gun. There is an electron gun is there. So the electron beam is coming. There is a cavity. It's a resonant cavity. There is a repeller is present. So the electrons are coming here. There are these electrons. This space is called from the cavity to the repeller. This space is called repeller space. The electrons enter into the repeller space. The electron which is accelerated. That means for this we are going to give what? RF input during the positive peak of the RF input. When the electron enter into the electron enter into that into the cavity during the positive RF input are accelerated and they move deeper into the repeller space and are reflected by the repeller space, again comes back into the cavity. That's what we have studied. Yes or no? And they come back towards the cavity. And during their return journey, they form the bunches. And once they form the bunches, during their return journey, once they form the bunches, these formed bunches, they give the energy to the cavity and RF output you are going to get. That is the reason you are going to get the output. Oscillations are produced. But when you see the diagram, this is the diagram of reflux crystal. This is the diagram of the reflux crystal. Once again, remember this diagram. This is most important diagram. So what are the voltages required? We required beam voltage. We required the repeller voltage. What is the applied beam voltage? It should be what? 200 to 400 volts beam voltage is required. What is the repeller voltage? Minus 21 volts to minus 210 volts beam repeller voltage is required. What is the beam current required? What is the beam current should be drawn? You should see whenever you are increasing the beam voltage, it should not increase more than 22 to 20 to 30 milliamperes. Beam current should be drawn. And you should see in the CRO screen whether you are getting the output or not, proper output is getting or not. And after that, we have in the circuit, when you see in the circuit, there is a, this is about the reflector, reflux crystal. This is about the reflux crystal. So for the reflux crystal to produce the output, we need what? A beam voltage and repeller voltage is required. So we should properly adjust these beam voltage and repeller voltage, then only the reflux crystal will give you the output. That's most important. You should adjust properly the beam voltage and repeller voltage in order to get the proper output. After reflux crystal, we have isolator. So we know what is isolator. Isolator is a device which allows the power from port 1 to port 2. It doesn't allow the power from port 2 to port 1. It allows a very high attenuation, or it provides very high attenuation from port 2 to port 1. It doesn't allow any attenuation, or it provides zero attenuation from port 1 to port 2. And next, we have what? We have, this is what? This is most important one. This is what? There is an attenuator is present. We have various types of attenuators. So resistive card attenuator, rotary vane attenuators are there depending upon the requirement. When very high accurate attenuation is required, we'll go for what? Rotary vane attenuator, or else we'll go for a resistive vane attenuator. So resistive cord, a resistive cord type movement also. This is one of the resistive cord attenuator. So when you want high precision or high accuracy, we can go for even rotary vane attenuators also we can use. And this is the most important one. This is the frequency meter. So it is used to measure the frequency of the microwave signal. So generally frequency meters, it's a tunable frequency. By tuning, by rotating that, when you are doing the experiment, you come to know it's a tunable frequency meter. It's a cylindrical type. When you observe this one, it is a cylindrical type. It is a tunable cavity of cylindrical shape frequency meter. And another thing you can observe this one, this is a slotted waveguide. So in the slotted waveguide, here you can observe there are two scales are available. Slotted section with a line consisting of two scales are available, and you can observe this is the probe. You can observe there is a probe section available. To this probe we can connect various devices. So I told you in the beginning, various measuring devices are connected to this slotted section, slotted waveguide. So to this probe, I can connect either a CRO I can connect. I can connect either a power meter I can connect. That means to various measuring devices I can connect to the slotted waveguide. When you observe the slotted waveguide, there is a scale available. That is called vernier calipers is available. A scale type structure is available. So this is called, when you rotate, there is a plunger is available here. When you rotate this plunger, you can vary the reading. So practically you might have seen this one. By rotating that plunger, the reading of that varies. The vernier calipers reading varies. At the end, you can see this a detector mount is available. This is the detector mount, a tunable detector mount to demodulate the signal. Finally, you are demodulating the signal, you are getting the original signal. So this is what a microwave bench setup, and these are the various components are available. So what are the various components are available? As I mentioned previously, so these are the various components of microwave bench setup. What are the various microwave components of microwave bench setup? Reflux crystron power supply, reflux crystron, isolator, variable attenuator, frequency meter, slotted waveguide, measuring devices, measuring instruments, and detector mode. You need to explain about each one of these at least 1 to 2 lines. Sometimes they'll ask about these things. Explain about microwave test bench setup means you have to draw this diagram and you should explain 1 or 2 lines about each one. So commonly there are some errors takes place whenever you are measuring some parameters. There may be some instrumental errors. So the instrumental errors mainly due to what? Due to calibration. Calibration means every device we need to calibrate it. We need to set that device to industry standard every time. For every 1 year, we need to call the industry people. They'll do the calibration. When the device is calibrated, then only it will give the accurate results. When it is not calibrated every year, we cannot expect good results. So if it is not calibrated due to instrumental errors also, we may expect some errors. Substitutional errors due to what? Heating of some inside RF coils, due to heating of some elements or heating of some equipment due to losses in the heating means when the device is heated, what happens? Power losses happens. Due to that also some errors happens. Efficiency errors also happens. Due to that also we will get what? Errors. Always, what are the precautions you have to take while conducting these experiments means? Do you observe whenever you are doing this experiment, a fan is kept nearer to that klystron? Why the fan is kept? Always, a cooling fan is kept nearer to the klystron tube to avoid the overheating of the klystron. Because overheating of the klystron may give, as I mentioned, substitutional errors may give or efficiency errors may give. To avoid those things, generally a cooling fan is a fan is kept nearer to the klystron always. So other one, and always an isolator must be kept. An isolator is compulsory. Without isolator, don't give the reflux crystron output directly to the frequency meter. Here, this is most important. As I mentioned, without this, as I mentioned here, without this, what happens? You may ask the question, why this isolator is important? Without it, can I give this supply directly to this variable attenuator? So if any backward radiation due to mismatches in any device, if any backward radiation means it is going to affect your reflux crystron, it is going to cost, this entire equipment is going to be very costly. It is going to affect the entire performance of the system. So always use an isolator or attenuator in your system. That is most important. So you are using a variable attenuator and isolator. Those two are very, very important. And you are using a frequency meter to measure the frequency. Once you measure the frequency, detune it. Detune it means rotate it and keep it in a normal position. That's most important. And negative repeller voltage should be applied before anode voltage is applied. First apply the negative repeller voltage, then apply the anode voltage. That's most important. Apply the negative repeller voltage, then apply the anode voltage. Okay. So these are the, before switching on the power supply, keep all the control knobs should be kept minimum position. Beam voltage in fully anti-clockwise direction, reflector voltage fully clockwise direction. So these are some, while doing the experiment, you will come to know what are the things. Beam voltage fully anti-clockwise, repeller voltage fully clockwise. Some precautions you have to take. Okay. So today we'll see how to measure frequency. So the frequency measurement, as I mentioned, this is the same setup we are going to use for frequency measurement also, the same setup. So what is the procedure for frequency measurement is the same setup: reflex crystron power supply, reflex crystron, isolator, variable attenuator, frequency meter, slotted waveguide, after that detector mount, measuring instrument. So connect the microwave test bench. This is one of the experiment you are going to do in your lab also, as I mentioned. Same experiment we are going to do here also. Same procedure we are going to follow. No problem. The procedure is connect the microwave test bench as per the block diagram. As per the block diagram means whatever I have shown as per the bank. Keep the beam voltage in minimum position. Set the repeller voltage to maximum voltage. First, initially beam voltage should be kept in minimum and the repeller voltage is. Switch on the klystron power supply. So before switching on the, as I told, the white color box is the reflex crystron power supply. This one, as I've shown, this box somewhere, it's something like, it is something like your what I call your function generator box. Like your function generator box, it looks, but it's a very big one. Compared to function generator, there are various knobs are there, like beam voltage, repeller voltage. Initially keep the beam voltage in minimum position and set the repeller voltage maximum position. Keep the beam voltage in minimum and repeller voltage in maximum position. Switch on. Before switching on the power supply itself, beam voltage in minimum and repeller voltage in maximum. Switch on the reflex crystron power supply. Wait till the current reading of the reflex power supply becomes stable. Now adjust the beam voltage to get, you have to see the current, beam current. Slowly you have to adjust the beam voltage. Beam voltage knob is there, repeller voltage is knob is there. You have to adjust the beam voltage. Beam voltage, how much you can go for? Up to 200 to 400. But what is the criteria? How much you can adjust the beam voltage? The beam voltage you can adjust. But at that position, what is the condition you have to see? You have to see what is the beam current. The beam current should be in between 15 to 20 milliamperes. Are you getting? So now once the beam current is in between 15 to 20 milliamperes, if the beam current is between 15 to 20 milliamperes, now adjust the repeller voltage. Adjust the repeller voltage. See the output in the CRO, whether you are getting perfect square wave or not. Are you getting, whether you are getting the perfect square wave or not? So till you will get perfect square wave, adjust your repeller voltage. So what you have to do? You have two knobs. One is beam voltage, another one is repeller voltage. First, before switching on the power supply, you have one box that is a repeller reflux crestron power supply. In that, various knobs are available. So your main concentration should be on beam voltage and repeller voltage. So before switching on the power supply, repeller voltage should be in minimum position. So now switch on the power supply. You should first initially adjust the beam voltage. You should adjust the beam voltage by seeing the beam current. The beam current should be in between 15 to 20 milliamperes. When you are adjusting the beam voltage, the beam current should be between 15 to 20 milliamperes. By the time beam voltage will reach from what 200 to 400 volts. Now adjust the repeller voltage by seeing the output in the CRT screen until you will get perfect square wave. Are you getting? Now keep the probe of the slotted section at a position corresponding to maximum. Don't where you are getting the maximum. So maximum means where you are getting the maximum output. That position you adjust. So now you see, you have to adjust that one in a proper position. You have to adjust. So you can take, we have frequency measurement in two types. Direct frequency measurement is there. So in direct frequency measurement, what happens means, in case of direct frequency measurement, this is frequency meter. In the frequency meter, we have two rings. So two rings is there. So like this, I'll draw this one. So how it looks like this, we have two rings like this and one vertical line will be there. So where you are going to get the dip. Dip is nothing but where you are going to get a small decrement in the output you are going to get. At that position, you should take the output in the frequency meter. That is called dip. So between those two lines, you should take the reading. So that is called a direct frequency meter measurement. You will directly get the frequency. That is a micrometer reading you will get from the data sheet you will get. So there is a comparison sheet is there. From that, I think in your lab, you are following that procedure. What is the procedure is there? Directly from that, there is a data sheet. What is the equivalent value? What is the frequency? From the frequency, what is the equivalent value you are calculating? What is the frequency is there? That is the frequency. That is one procedure. But another procedure is there. What is the other procedure? Successive minimas you have to calculate. So how to calculate the successive minimas? Whether you are following the direct frequency measurement or successive minima frequency measurement in your lab. Anybody? I think this is the first experiment. By this time you have completed. How you have done your experiment? Direct frequency measurement or successive